My brother Joshua blindsided me by kicking me out of our family hardware store after 15 years of my blood and sweat, plotting to sell it to a soulless chain. Furious and betrayed, I'm torn between fighting for Dad's legacy or walking away forever. Hey everyone, my name's Amelia. I'm 29 years old, and I've been a lurker on Reddit for ages, but I'm finally posting because I'm losing my mind over this mess and need some outside takes. Buckle up, this is a long one. I've got 15 years of family drama to spill, and it's all about how my older brother Joshua kicked me out of our family business after I basically gave my life to it. I'm trying to figure out if I'm the one screwing up here or if he's just a complete jerk. Here's the whole story. So, some background to set the scene. I grew up in a pretty typical family. Me, Joshua, he's 34 now, our younger brother Matthew, he's 26, and our parents. Our dad started this little hardware store about 25 years ago. It wasn't anything glamorous, just a local spot in our small town selling tools, nails, paint, that kind of thing. It kept a roof over our heads and food on the table, nothing extravagant, but it was ours. Joshua was always the loud, confident one growing up, the golden boy who could talk his way out of anything. He's got this big personality, always going on about his grand ideas, even if most of them fizzled out. Me, I was quieter, more of a doer than a talker. I like getting my hands dirty and making things work. Matthew's the baby of the family, super chill, kind of flaky, but a good kid at heart. He's the type who'd rather binge video games than deal with real life, which will come up later. I started working at the store when I was 14, just helping out after school. I'd sweep the floors, stock shelves, ring up customers, basic stuff. Dad always said the business was for all of us, something we'd inherit and run together someday. Joshua was already there too, being older, but he mostly strutted around telling me what to do while I hauled boxes. I didn't mind. I loved that place. The creaky wooden floors, the smell of metal and sawdust, the old guys who'd come in every week to buy a single bolt and chat for an hour. It felt like my second home. By the time I was 18, I was pretty much running the daily operations. Dad trusted me with the keys, and I'd open up, close down, and keep things humming while he dealt with suppliers. Joshua, though, he'd show up when he felt like it, usually late, and act like he was doing me a favor. After high school, I went to community college for a couple years, got a basic business degree, and came right back to the store. I didn't even think twice about it. It was where I belonged. Joshua, meanwhile, was off trying random jobs. He sold cars for a bit, then got sucked into some shady startup that tanked, and eventually circled back to the family business when he was around 27. Dad was over the moon to have him step up, even though I'd been the one keeping it afloat. I figured we'd split the work and make it a team effort, but yeah, that was naive of me. Here's where the main mess starts. About 5 years ago, Dad got sick, cancer, the aggressive kind. It was brutal watching him fade, and he passed away 2 years later. That wrecked all of us, but the store became my lifeline. I threw myself into it, upgraded our ancient inventory system, set up a little online shop so people could order stuff like screws or paint rollers from home, even started an Instagram to show off our stock and bring in younger customers. It wasn't some overnight success, but it kept us steady. Joshua stepped up too. I'll give him credit. He took over the big picture stuff like dealing with vendors and charming the regulars. Matthew, though, he'd wander in maybe once a week, grab a soda from the break room, and peace out. Mom was too broken up to help, so it was mostly me and Joshua holding it together. When Dad died, he left the business to all three of us in his will. Equal shares, 1/3 each. I thought that meant we'd run it as partners, but Joshua saw it differently. Almost right away, he started acting like he was the sole boss. He'd make decisions without telling me, like ordering a ton of overpriced drills we couldn't sell or changing our hours out of nowhere. I'd call him out, and he'd just smirk and say, "I'm the oldest, Amelia. I know what I'm doing." It pissed me off, but I swallowed it because Mom was still a wreck, and I didn't want to start a war. Now, let's get into the sub-conflicts, because there's a bunch, and they're all tangled up in this. First off, money. Joshua started taking a bigger chunk of the profits, claiming he earned it for his leadership role. I was barely breaking even, pouring every dime back into the store to keep it running, while he was out buying a shiny new truck and taking his girlfriend Charlotte on weekend getaways. Charlotte's a whole sub-conflict herself. She's this high-maintenance type, think designer bags and constant Instagram stories, who latched onto Joshua a few years back. She's always whispering in his ear about thinking bigger and moving up. She'd waltz into the store like she owned it, criticizing everything, telling me the shelves looked cheap, or we should ditch the tools and sell artisanal soaps instead. I'd grit my teeth and ignore her, but it was like nails on a chalkboard. Second subconflict, Matthew. He's useless when it comes to the business, but he's got this knack for making me feel guilty about it. Like, last year, he suddenly decided he wanted to contribute and spent a whole day rearranging the paint section into some artsy pattern that made zero sense. Customers couldn't find a damn thing. I redid it all. He got pouty, and then ran to Mom saying I was pushing him out of the family legacy. Mom, who's still fragile from losing Dad, called me in tears about how we need to stay united. I love her, but dealing with that on top of everything else is a lot. Third subconflict, and this is the gut punch. Joshua's been sneaking around trying to sell the store. I found out a couple months ago when a regular customer, sweet old guy who buys wood screws every Tuesday, mentioned seeing Joshua at a coffee shop with some corporate-looking dudes talking about selling the property. I confronted him, and he didn't even deny it. He's been negotiating with this big box chain to offload our store, Dad's store, without telling me until it was almost done. His reasoning? You're too sentimental, Amelia. This place is a dead end, and I'm tired of babysitting it. I couldn't believe it. Then he hit me with the real blow. He wanted me out. Said I could take a tiny payout and leave, or he'd find a way to boot me legally since he and Matthew have 2/3 ownership combined. Matthew's on his side, of course, too lazy to care, just wants the quick cash. I flipped out. We had this massive screaming match in the back room. Me yelling about how I'd given 15 years to this place, him calling me a control freak who's living in the past. Charlotte was there too, leaning against the wall with this smug little smile, like she was enjoying the show. I wanted to chuck a hammer at her, don't worry, but instead I just grabbed my stuff and stormed out. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't been back since, and Joshua's been running the store alone while I sit here fuming. The sale's not final yet, but he's pushing it through. 15 years. Half my life. I started working there as a scrawny teenager, barely tall enough to reach the top shelves. I missed out on so much. Weekend trips with friends, dating. One ex dumped me because I was married to the store. Even sleep some nights when I'd stay up late fixing the books or prepping for inventory. I remember this one winter when the heat broke, and I spent hours in the freezing cold trying to jury-rig it so we wouldn't lose a day's sales. Joshua wasn't there for that. He was sick that week. And now he's acting like I'm some temp he can fire. I'm so torn. Part of me wants to fight for it. That store's my dad's legacy, and I made it what it is. Every system, every improvement, every loyal customer who knows my name. I've got proof of my work, spreadsheets, receipts, emails from suppliers thanking me for keeping things smooth. But then I wonder if I'm being irrational. Joshua's not wrong that it's not a cash cow. It's stable, but we're not rolling in dough. Maybe I'm too attached. Maybe I should take the payout, walk away, start fresh. But the thought of him and Charlotte pocketing the bulk of it while I get peanuts makes me want to scream. There's more to this mess too. I haven't told Mom about the sale. She'd lose it if she knew, and I can't put that on her right now. She's already fragile, still cries over Dad's old flannel shirts she keeps in the closet. Matthew's been blowing up my phone, saying I'm making a big deal out of nothing and should trust Joshua to handle it. Easy for him to say. He's never lifted a finger. I've been crashing at my friend's apartment, sleeping on her lumpy couch, scrolling Reddit at 2 a.m. Hey, that's how I ended up here, and replaying every moment that led to this. Did I miss something years ago? Should I have fought harder for control after Dad died? Was I dumb to think we could share it equally? I keep circling back to these little memories that hit me hard. Like when I was 16, Dad took me to the store on a quiet Sunday. Just us. And we painted the front door this bright blue he loved. He kept laughing because I got paint in my hair, and he said, "This place is yours too, kiddo. Don't let anyone take it from you." Joshua wasn't there. He was off with his buddies, probably. Now it feels like Dad knew something I didn't. Or this other time, when I was 20, and we had a big storm that flooded the back room. I stayed all night mopping it up, soaking wet and miserable, while Joshua called to say he couldn't make it in. Dad hugged me after and said he was proud of me. Those moments keep playing in my head, and they make me want to hold on. But then there's the flip side. Running that store's been my whole identity, and maybe that's not healthy. I've got no savings, no backup plan. Everything's tied up in it. If I fight Joshua, I'd have to lawyer up, which I can't afford, and I might lose anyway. Or I could let it go, let him have his win, and figure out who I am without that place. But every time I picture it, some corporate chain tearing out the blue door, turning it into a sterile box, or worse, shutting it down, I feel like I'm losing Dad all over again. I've been a mess these past few weeks. I barely eat. I snap at my friend over dumb stuff like leaving dishes out, and I keep waking up from nightmares where Joshua's laughing while the store burns down. Mom's called a few times, begging me to work it out with him, but I can't even hear his voice without wanting to punch something. Charlotte texted me once, saying I should be mature and move on. I didn't reply, but I've got a draft saved that's just a string of middle finger emojis. So that's where I'm at. I could dig in, try to save the store, but it might be a losing battle. Or I could cut my losses and start over, even though it feels like giving up. I don't know what's right anymore. I just know I'm angry and hurt and tired. Am I out of line for wanting to fight for this? Am I being a jerk for not letting it go? I'd love your thoughts. Don't hold back. Thanks for slogging through this monster of a post.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates.